Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited to have you here. I really do need to find more words for for excited because I feel like you hear me saying that every single week. But today is our final, the three of three in our travel industry Black Friday series. So the past couple of weeks, you've been hearing from our amazing presenting partners. We had Mary Beth Lynn from Assistants That Work. We also had Iris Serbanescu from the Women's Work Tourism Accelerator. And today we're going to have Marcie Muensterman of the No BS Travel Advisor. I know many of you are probably in her Facebook group, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you're looking for real, raw, practical advice in your travel business, Marcie is a really great resource for your business. So without further ado, welcome Marcie to the podcast.
Hey Rita, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I am so excited just to see like where we're gonna go down because
Yes.
there's
You
lots
never
of different
know.
rabbit holes here. But let's first start getting like a lay of the land, the background of like
Sure.
how did you get into the travel industry? I know that you've also dealt with a little bit of burnout, a little bit of hesitation charging fees, but are definitely full force in that now. So how
Yeah.
did 2025 Marcie Munsterman come to be?
Well, that's a long story, but the short version is I wanted to have a destination wedding and I hired a travel advisor to do that for me.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with her service. I fell in love with the 24/7 vibes that she gave as a
Okay.
client of hers. And I really didn't have a clear path in my 20s of what I really wanted to do with my life. And I hated corporate America. I was a barista and a bartender and doing all these other like odd and end jobs after
Mhm.
college. And when I met her and worked with her on my destination wedding, I really fell in love with that process. And so I won't lie, like I begged her to work with her.
Nice.
So I went directly into destination weddings and honeymoon planning when I became a travel advisor. And she did mentor me through that experience. And
Okay.
I'm very lucky to have had a really good mentor in those first 18 months or so.
Nice. Was she hosted or because I know we could also dive in a little bit about the whole hosting and red flags and green
She had a
flags.
brand
Okay.
and it was pretty, it was something I actually really enjoyed being a part of. And it, I think it's one of those things like you don't know what you don't know, but as an
Mhm.
IC, I don't think that there was very much cognitive experience around she as an owner. I don't know if that's true of
Okay.
what it meant to have ICs, but over time there was just a lot of things that didn't line up with 1099. So after a few years of doing a lot of things within that organization, I did get really burnt out.
Okay.
I think, there is some hosts and agency owners who genuinely do not understand 1099 law or
Oh yeah.
don't attempt to learn. And I really would probably say that in many cases, that is what happens.
Hmm.
Um, and I was really too young to recognize what was going on and didn't fully embrace and understand 1099 until I'd left the travel industry. So
Okay.
after about 8 years, 8-ish plus years of doing tons of destination weddings per year, lots and lots of honeymoons. I was working so much. I worked all the time. And, my kids were really little. They were born in 2009 and then 2011. And
Okay.
I barely took a maternity leave and I just was a workaholic. I mean, there
Mhm.
was no other word for it, but it was very much the culture at that time, especially in the organization I was with.
Yeah.
We all just worked so much. So I think it's one of those things where, there was just there just wasn't a lot of support
Right.
in terms of work-life balance. And even now, work-life balance is a myth that we all try to like buy into as mothers. So that's like a whole other conversation. But, after a few years of just go, go, go and trying to reconnect with my family, who was suffering the most from me
Mhm.
being a workaholic, I really did get burnt out. My commissions never increased, even though my sales increased. And
Oh
I
no.
just wasn't in a position to continue down that road anymore.
Okay.
So even though I had incredible mentorship and really loved being a travel advisor in that community, I couldn't maintain and sustain the way I was
Yeah.
during especially after my kiddos were born. So it became unhealthy for me. And I take a lot of ownership of that now because
Mhm.
I think at the time I really wanted to blame, the situation that I had gotten myself into instead of
Yeah.
really recognizing that I signed my own contracts and I agreed to be a part of that organization for so long.
Yeah. For people who are kind of like maybe a little confused or unsure that they might be dealing with burnout, what
Hmm.
were some of the symptoms that you would say that you were experiencing? And then also, you had mentioned the whole like line between employee and 1099
Hmm.
contractor. What would you say were some of those symptoms that were related to not knowing what was employee versus 1099?
I think that's a fair question. And I think it is a very murky, water around what is 1099 and what is employee, but it all comes
Yeah.
down to control as well as I feel anything that requires you to do something.
Mhm.
So, for me at that time, there were like mandatory Monday meetings. We had uniforms when we traveled.
Oh,
And it was in our contracts that we had to travel 2 times a year, no matter what. Um, there were just a lot of stipulations. There was a 2-year non-compete. That is a huge red flag.
yes.
Um, and overall, there was just this attitude of this is how it has to be done in this specific way. And it wasn't in our contract, but there was this mutual understanding that we had to respond to every request within 3 hours.
Shut the front door.
So it was a lot. And I knew in my gut, like there were certain things that this was not in alignment with the classification of 1099, but
Mhm.
I was young and I
Yeah.
really liked working there. Like I really liked working alongside these very high level travel advisors. Everyone was very high achieving, high performing.
Okay.
We were extremely competitive with
Yeah.
each other and in the industry. We won a lot of awards
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed that aspect for until it became too much to enjoy. Like until you were
Yeah.
just like, is this all there is? It's just work. And we took great pride in traveling with our laptops and we had some
Working those.
incredible experiences as a community of travel advisors, like
Yeah.
really, really fun, cool experiences. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it sucked all the time. It really did not suck. I went to every single sandals and beaches. I went all over Mexico. I traveled to
Uh-huh.
Hawaii, like these things were not without positives.
Yeah.
But I think over time, like especially when the commission doesn't bump up from 70/30, it becomes very difficult to like manage, your actual income. Like I was selling well over 1 million a year in gross sales and not I'm barely clearing 6 figures. And it was
Yeah.
like for the hours I worked and the time I was away from my family and the overall vibe, by the time I left, I was exhausted. And so
Mhm.
some of my symptoms were I was pretty angry, like
Okay.
towards my family, towards my friends. I was saying no to social events. I missed a Christmas one year, a whole Christmas day.
Was this because you were more focused on getting the work done, and so you were angry that personal stuff was coming in to take time away from the work,
I
or?
wasn't worried about my personal life at all. And
Okay.
if you were interrupting my work, you got your head bit off.
Oh, wow.
So I'm very different now.
Okay.
And I'm still a workaholic in many ways, but I think, I'm able to put my phone away for hours at a time. Like this past
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, my phone was completely away from me for over 10 hours.
Nice.
Like I go to sleep at a normal hour now. I don't sleep with my phone under my head anymore. If you're doing kinds of things like this, or you are so stressed, if your stomach hurts and your anxiety is super high all the time, I think you really have to take stock of how you spend your time.
Hmm.
If you can't like get through a meal, or if you can't focus on your family for a couple of hours at a time without completely like having to check your phone,
Hmm.
I think that's it. If you're on your phone and driving, if you're doing crazy shit to stay a top of mind for clients, um, if you think you have to do everything too, like I
Hmm.
think you get to that point where you never want to say no because you're afraid of losing a client. These are burnout. This is like burnout 101. Like
Yeah.
it's not sustainable to lose sleep, to miss holidays because you're working. Um, the Christmas I missed was because of a huge snowstorm, and my clients couldn't get where they were going, and it just ate up the whole day. And so, I had to implement when I came back in 2018, I had to implement a lot of rules
Hmm.
in my business to protect my time and my, you know, relationships and
Yeah.
things like that. So, I mean, I think people know if they're willing to be self-aware if they're burnout.
Yeah. When you say that you left the industry for a couple of years,
Mhm.
what was it that kind of like made you take that decision as to like leaving for a couple of years as opposed to like maybe just taking a month break or a month sabbatical or
So genuinely, I didn't want to deal with the travel agency anymore. And
okay.
so I knew I was gonna take at least 2 years, which was my non-compete, because I didn't want to deal with like getting a lawyer and managing kind of that emotional journey of like this. It's like the non-compete probably wouldn't have held up.
Hmm.
After talking to a lawyer and stuff like that, we realized it probably wouldn't have held up, but it wasn't worth like having those threats and problems that I know a couple of the agents experienced when they left. And so I think it's one of those things where I didn't want to be a travel advisor anymore.
Okay.
I'm a very all or nothing person. And so I was like, I'm just done. I walked away. I kind of burnt the whole thing down.
Uh-huh.
I have zero relationships from that time in my life. I don't talk to anyone like that was affiliated with me or that agency anymore.
Okay.
So, when you burn down relationships, when you walk away from something, whether they do it or you do it, and in my case, I did it,
Hmm.
um, you get like that brought on a whole other level of anxiety. So, I felt like I let a lot of my clients down by leaving, definitely let down at my friends who were still colleagues at that time, and just genuinely just needed to fully like, you know, take it from ashes. So for
Yeah.
me, it was just like, let's just walk away. And if I feel up for it in a couple of years, I can always come back.
Yeah. It very much reminds me of like the Phoenix Rising, especially taking like so much time off.
That's so funny.
What would you say? And it makes me think of you as I know that you're a Leo, so I'm like fire sign.
So true. We don't do anything quietly,
Yeah.
non-dramatically. It was very dramatic at the time. Oh, ridiculous.
When the after taking the 3-ish years of a break, when you were deciding to come back into the industry, what were some like non-negotiables after taking this time off?
Well, I'm going to plug my own podcast because I
Yeah.
actually have a podcast that's coming out on December 5th that I go into all of this.
Nice.
But I decided to start making rules for myself. I really wanted to run a six-figure business in 20 hours a week. I have a completely different definition of what it means to be a full-time advisor now
Okay.
and I wish a lot of advisors would look at their business differently, because so many of us are like full-time caregivers of our kids, our parents. A
Right.
lot of us are in that middle sandwich age. I'm 45 and I take care of my husband's dad sometimes and my mom, and then Obviously, I have teenagers, so we're just taking care of everyone. And I just don't feel like it's feasible for women in our industry, especially if you have another job, as
Hmm.
well as
Oh, yeah.
children, to do it all and run 2 40-hour work week. If you have a 40-hour everyday job, like a nurse or a teacher or a receptionist, anything, honestly, that you're spending
Yeah.
time doing, it's going to be really challenging for you to do this job full-time hours.
Yeah.
So, when I came back, I knew I didn't want to work more than 15 or 20 hours a week. And that meant really putting a lot of stringent rules around the time I spent in the office and how I spent it and who I worked with, as far as clients. And that,
Okay.
it started with office hours and establishing really firm office hours and then deciding how many clients a week I was going to take, which is no more than two,
Okay.
and limiting how many clients I took per month. So once my month had six clients, I would shut down that month for all future requests.
Okay.
Uh, so that was like the beginning. And then it extended to if I'm traveling, Christmas week, Thanksgiving week, 4th of July, my birthday, like I take all those off. I don't
Yeah.
work and I don't take clients during those dates. And I get a lot of pushback, especially online, about this type of advice. But I really feel like it's how I have become successful doing this the way I do it.
Right.
And it's very different than everything we're taught. So the only person who can change your situation is you.
Right.
And I knew I had to take responsibility for myself.
Yeah. I think that this conversation needs to just be had more often
Hmm.
because I don't feel like there's enough people speaking out about this because you're completely right. There's so many people that are like, well, if it's a luxury client, you better have your phone and like answer it in a couple minutes. And I'm like, that just doesn't feel
It's
great.
complete BS. It's the lies we believe and it's the lies we tell ourselves, because we have scarcity mindset. And that's
Yeah.
what's taught in our industry from day one. That's what I was taught from day one, that you're going to lose somebody. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to lose them, I'm going to lose them anyway.
Right. Because I'm like, I'm
So,
sure there are clients that want you 24/7. That doesn't mean that you have to take them. You don't have to be there unless like you want to be available 24/7. But I know many people don't for the exact same reasons what you were saying. Like there's more to us than just our career, what we're working
hmm.
at. We have family. There's like hobbies that we love to do, and those take time as well as like just managing a household and making sure everything is kept up with. Like there's just
So much. We do
many
so much as
things.
women. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
because when you say that you like max out kind of like at 5 or 6 clients a month, what does that kind of look like? Is there a minimum spend? Are there certain types of trips that you take on versus not take on because of like these strict boundaries that you have on your capacity?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think that that's something that everyone listening is like, well, how do I do that and make six figures?
Right.
So it does have to come down to over time developing a higher spend client. Doesn't necessarily have to be luxury, but also partnering with preferred partners that pay the highest level of commissions, which means
Oh,
being
yeah.
with the right host and making the most money at that host level. So if you're with a larger host company, which is always my advice,
Hmm.
um, like a World Via, Nexion, KHM,
Yes.
TPI, they all offer 90%
Hmm.
commission and they have the highest commissionable rates for large tour operators like Vacation Express, Pleasant Holidays, Journeys, Vax, vendors like FunJet, Travel Impressions, ALG. So all of those types of hosts offer so much more autonomy and higher pay. So it starts there. You have to be partnered with somebody that's going to pay you the
Yep.
highest level of commission you can get to. Some of them even go up to 100% once you're at certain gross sales totals. So you have so much opportunity in those larger host places to at least make the highest level of commission, which is where it starts. And
Hmm.
then from there, deciding brands that you're going to sell that aren't mid to mediocre levels. Like, put yourself in a position of servicing clients who want a really memorable experience and don't make it about how much money they have to spend and stop asking for a budget This is always a, what do
It,
you mean? I have to get a
yeah.
budget. It's like, yeah, you have to get a budget, but you're not going to ask them what they want to spend. You
Okay.
are going to tell them how much what they are describing to you, especially if it's a honeymoon or an anniversary trip or something very special. They're going to describe something to you typically that is not a $2,500 vacation.
Hmm.
So we have to come to the table with the knowledge of how much a memorable experience is going to cost to get them the experience they're looking for and build a referral base from those clients who trust you and
Hmm.
like you. You need to be likable and knowledgeable and deliver the information with confidence.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different ways to layer it on. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to come into the business day one and only be selling luxury pricing, $15,000 and up. That's probably, if it happens, it's rare.
Hmm.
So, you will start at maybe lower spends, but I always tell everyone that coaches with me, like, you can increase minimum spend per client even after they're booked
Right.
by adding transportation, by adding insurance, by
Yep.
upselling the room category. If there's like a better sale that comes along, there's different ways to maximize your commissions per client and then year over year increasing that minimum spend. So instead of a $4,000 vacation, the next year they go on a $4,500 vacation. And
Hmm.
year over year, you're making a little bit more money, but that adds up because it's going to be per client and not, just one client at a time. It's literally like if you increase the commission by a couple $100 on every single booking you have right now for 2026,
Hmm.
it could be another $2,000 and bring home commission. It's just basic math.
Yeah. I love that you bring up the budget. I feel like budget comes up a lot, and
It
you're
does.
either for mentioning the budget or for not mentioning the budget. But I do like how you kind of frame it where you as the travel advisor are the expert, so you should know what a memorable trip to Iceland, what a memorable Southern Africa safari is going to
Mhm.
cost. I love that you also put memorable in that because that takes away the demographics aspect, which I think is like very much on that budget subject. And instead of coming it from that way, like what do these people want to come out of their trip from, as opposed to like having a checklist of things.
I also think agents assume that clients or potential clients, they're actually called prospects until they're booked, is are coming to them for the cheapest thing. In fact,
Yes.
when only like 23% of people care about budget as
Yeah.
their number one thing. So like when you are working with a client, it needs to come from what they actually want in the vacation versus what they want to spend on the vacation. Because most people who hire travel advisors are not seeking the cheapest trip, just because that's what you might see in Facebook groups and those local neighborhood chatter. Like
Oh,
that doesn't actually represent the majority of travelers who hire
yeah.
advisors. So it's really important to limit your assumptions, because if you go into it just assuming they want the cheapest and that's what you offer. I have a couple of friends who said they never offer anything over like the entry level room. And I'm like, well, that doesn't give you anywhere to go. Like if you at least offer the third or fourth level room category up, you can say this is what you could be getting if you're willing to invest a little bit more money. You can have that balcony, you can have that beautiful view. But then if they're like, well, we really don't care about the view. Okay, well, we can come down one category and we're
Mhm.
saving this much. We can come down two categories, we're saving this much. But if you just start with like the garden parking lot view, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
There's
That's a
nowhere to
really
go.
great point. Yeah.
So it's important that you also show them the possibilities, because 87% of clients walk into a hotel and ask for an upgrade at the time of check-in. You are missing out on the money if they check in and do an upgrade at the desk.
Right.
Sell them the room that they're going to want to have. Then they'll stop asking for upgrades when they check in because you have offered them the best options. And
Hmm.
if you are worried they're going to ask for an upgrade at the check in because you did sell them the garden parking lot view and it sucks, offer the ocean view if it's available 2 weeks before and get them upgraded 2 weeks before. Like there's so many opportunities to make a little bit more money and create a memorable experience even after the sale.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think of it from because I had done a lot of cruising on the agency side of things. So I think about it like instead of presenting like interior and ocean view, start with that balcony because
Absolutely.
there's way more balconies available on the ship anyways, and they're just gonna have a better experience in a balcony cabin as opposed to some of the other types. I wanted to ask too, because I know you're a huge Facebook group fan. When we're
Yes.
talking
That's
about
the
your
only thing I think anyone should be doing. Let's be real.
okay, cool. Because I want to dive into that. Because would you say that a majority of your travel agency clients find you through a Facebook group right now?
100%. I don't even have a
Okay.
website. That's
No
actually not true. I have a
way.
website now, but you cannot find my link for my travel unless I give it to you. It's not at the
Interesting.
front side because my website is all about coaching and courses now, but I did not get a website on my own. This is like one of those dark secrets that I don't tell anybody. Um, until 2022.
Um,
So even I started back in travel again in 2018, and I did not invest in that because I had become a Facebook expert prior to becoming a travel advisor again. And I wanted to see if I could build a business in a Facebook group.
mhm.
And that is 100% where all my clients come from. I
Okay.
still, I mean, obviously I'm referral as well, but all my clients are in my group and my group grows all the time. And that's to me the more important thing. And creating community is super important to me in all of my businesses that I've ever done. Even when I was burnt out, I was very connected to my clients.
Okay.
Um, I had a MySpace. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Whoa. Let's go back.
So, I friended all of my clients on MySpace, like,
Uh-huh.
so I could find out when their birthdays were. Like, I obviously had that information, but like in front of you,
Yeah.
and like just connecting with them through who you are as a person and not just as a travel agent. So, I think having a private Facebook group and keeping it private allows for you to also be your 100% self. You can show up who you are instead of that perfect thing you think you have to be like on Instagram or Facebook, even personal pages.
Yeah.
Um, I think you can tell the truth easier. I think keep those other travel agents out.
Yeah.
That's a huge one, even your owners and all that bullshit, because at the end of the day, you are in charge of this space. You are an IC, and so you do not have to share it with your travel agency owner, your host company. You don't have to share that space with anyone. And that's what's really going to build trust with your clients and your potential clients. And that's why I really like the Facebook group. It allows you to be who you want to be as an advisor.
I was gonna say, are certain hosts kind of forcing themselves into advisors' Facebook
Yes,
groups?
they
Oh
do it all the
no.
time. They
Oh
want control
no.
of their page. They want to be an admin in their group. They want, that, guys,
That's
that's something you
gross.
don't have to do. You
Yeah.
do not have to do that. I don't care if you work for any, like, you're in partnership with, you're in contract with, if you're signing up correctly, and you should not be forced to share space with your host or travel agency.
That is, well, I was like, I want to barf.
Disgusting.
Yeah,
It pisses me off.
so
I'm
weird.
smiling, but I'm annoyed.
That is so weird. For people that might not know, I think that you specialize like just in Italy trips because I wanna talk more about the
Now,
Facebook group and like what do you
but
talk about? What do you bring up? And yeah,
I mean, obviously I used to be a honeymoon and destination wedding specialist
right.
in the Caribbean, so I got that covered. I would consider that still my specialty, but I
Okay.
have shifted specialties to Italy now, and
Okay.
I love it so much. And I don't think anyone is quote unquote a European specialist. I don't actually think that's a thing because most of us haven't been to every European country and know it
Right.
inside and out. I think specialties um, are very unique to the destination you're selling. So, people can ask me about Spain. I know nothing about Spain. So that means I'm not a European specialist.
Yeah.
So I want you to just take that away from this too, is we tend to think we need to do it all. And
Mhm.
I don't subscribe to that
Yeah,
mentality.
100%.
So I have shifted, and for next year, I have sold Turks and Caicos. I have sold Mexico, but my main goal is to sell the majority of my trips to Italy and be at a very high minimum spend, which starts at $25,000 for a
Okay.
trip for two.
Okay. Perfect. Because I feel like that is going to help people who are like, oh, but my clients, like I could never do that. Like I could never be successful with just a Facebook group with this type of client or this type of trip. So I feel like having that almost like
Yeah,
that
and I think it
flag in the sand.
transitions.
Yeah.
If you're flexible, this isn't like a one and done thing.
Hmm.
You know, my past clients very much still come to me for those Caribbean vacations. I push their spend a lot more now because I think to get them the best opportunity to have the best experience, even in the Caribbean, even if they've done it 15 times, is to continue to offer things that they have not experienced before.
Yeah.
So, really working with them on elevating all of those experiences because you cannot repeat things from 2007 and expect it to be the same as it is now in 2025. So it's your job, as a travel advisor to advise so they can continue to have amazing, memorable experiences.
Hmm.
I used to not specialize in family vacations. I have two teenagers now. I very much am comfortable helping families travel, even to Italy, because I know what it's like. So,
Yeah.
as I grew up in this industry, I was only 26 when I started. I'm 45 now. What the hell? Um, it's crazy. I'm able to educate and offer opportunities to families now that I wouldn't have known anything about
Hmm.
when I first started. So I think too, those types of things can change for you. And with anything, if there's a bigger amount of people traveling, they should be spending more money, which means you're making more money.
Yeah. My marketing hat is going off here because I just feel the way that you're talking about travel is how advisors need to be talking about travel. Like, get the benefits of working with a travel advisor, that is out of the vocabulary. Booking travel, that is out of the vocabulary. It's about creating memorable experiences and how your unique magic or touch or insights, relationships really can change somebody's vacation from just let me book it on Expedia to
Mhm.
let me work with a travel expert on this.
Absolutely. And I think when you're newer, you might be feeling intimidated, but I tell people, you came from somewhere.
Yes.
You have unique capabilities and skill sets and relationships and networks that no one else has.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you've never been a travel advisor and today is your first day, you are bringing in an entirely unique skill set into the industry, and you need to lean into that skill set and know that you're worth it, to be paid a fee, to be hired and not used. These are like little things that you can change in your own brain to help you understand your value
Yeah.
as a not just a travel advisor, but as a human being in this business, especially if you're a woman, because you aren't just a travel advisor. You're
Yeah.
like a million other things.
100.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also wanted to touch on because there was a conversation that happened like a couple weeks ago, and just being like careful with the advice, or like whose advice you're gonna follow, or not following all the advice that's out there because not all advice is good advice, especially when it comes to like the Facebook group thing. That
Yeah.
while yes, Facebook might want to be publicizing your Facebook group, is that really the
Um,
best thing that you should be doing for your Facebook group? And I know we
Ooh,
both agree, no. But
no, there's so much advice. And one of my things that I, really advocate for, and it doesn't even have to be me, is choose someone that you align with and follow them down that path and base it on the experiences that person actually has in travel.
mhm.
Because there are a lot of coaches, there's a lot of course writers, there's a lot of ads that are literally AI right now that you can't tell,
Yeah.
who is actually teaching you. So it's really important that you do your research before you invest in something or invest in someone.
Right.
And I'm passionate about authenticity and bringing that into what I do as a coach, but not everyone relates to me. I do cuss a lot. Like I've really held back on this podcast because I'm being really respectful to Rita, but in general, it's effort to do that for me. Like it's,
Mhm.
part of my brand is just being so in your face. And a lot of people don't like that. And that is okay. You
Yeah.
do not have to listen to what I have to say, but also be very careful and conscientious of who you are listening to, because so much of what is being fed into the system is BS.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important that you get to know and fully understand that not everyone has your interest as a travel advisor at the forefront of
Mhm.
why they serve this community and how they serve this community. So it's really
Boo.
huge to follow somebody that puts the advisor first.
Yeah.
And I don't see that across the board. And I wouldn't even be here if I didn't align with Rita. So if you see me in spaces, it's because those people that I'm chatting with, that I'm connecting with, they align with most of my core values as a coach and advisor. And if you do not see me aligning with them, if you see me maybe posting something of the opposite of what that person has to say, it's for a very specific reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not really just to put that person down, it's to give you perspective.
Yeah.
And some of the coaches and course writers out there are producing things solely to get you to buy it, but they don't actually teach you how to use it.
Exactly. Oh my God. I'm like, we could have a whole conversation
We
just
really could.
about that because I feel like that's one of the most frustrating things because I came into like this education side of things, just wanting to put the best education and resources out there for travel advisors because I started on the agency side of things and that wasn't something that existed until like 2018-ish when
Yeah.
I was like, oh, business owner. Hats. Nobody talked about the business owner side of things in the travel industry. And it's so true. Like over the years, especially like if I'm not talking about something, it's usually because I'm like, I don't know that this is the right thing to be putting out to travel advice or in front of travel advisors. And like there are missteps sometimes. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I put that one out and that was not a good decision, but we'll
Sure,
move
we're going to
past
make
it.
mistakes. We're still
Yeah.
human. Some of the advice that's out there just doesn't actually have a full understanding of specifically the women in our industry.
Yeah.
And they're not actually trying to relate because they can't relate,
Right.
first of all. So if you are a man in this industry, I'm not going to advocate for very many things. There's only a few men that I'm connected with that I feel like at least have some energy of like not working 24/7
Yeah.
and not doing everything. I'm putting that in quotes for the listeners because everything is such crap for
Hmm.
the everyday advisor. And I do feel like there is such a hustle culture in the masculine side of our business. And
Yeah.
so I don't listen to men in our industry,
Yeah.
period, almost at all. There's a couple, but for the most part, I don't feel that the men who are coaching and trying to build businesses inside the TA side, just because someone is loud and in your face like me, doesn't mean that they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to the women in this industry specifically, I've already said it, we have so many things going on, and fully understanding why you would do something is so important.
Hmm.
And a lot of the people who teach have never done it,
Hmm.
have never been a woman in this industry, a mom trying to balance, a working mom trying to balance, like add to it, like
Yeah.
just keep adding and then look at that person and say, do they have the experience to actually educate me on my business?
Yeah.
And there are not very many of us out there teaching that
Yeah.
fully can give you that kind of advice. I mean, whether I took those 3 years off or not, I still have 19 years of sales experience. And I've grown up in this industry, and I have helped so many people for so many years without any expectation of return of that time. And I
Mhm.
continue to do it. And I don't do it in the most condescending way you've ever heard either. So if you're feeling something like, what does that mean? Or
Yeah.
why do they say it like that? Or are they really demanding me to do that? It's like, no, really take stock of how you're being spoken to and listen to people who you relate to and align with because
Yeah.
you will follow the wrong people down the wrong paths otherwise. We've all
Yeah.
done it. I mean, we've all done it.
Yeah. And that was, I feel like since the whole, everything that happened in 2020, there's been like this renaissance because you're absolutely right. This was like a very male dominated, and I'm not trying to like bash men or anything, but there was a lot of advice that they just couldn't relate to. It was very corporate, not even like small
Mhm.
business owner
That's a good way to
focused.
describe it. Yeah,
And even then, like not people who have not had formal business training. Like you may have had some career in some other industry, but like running a business, running an operation is a whole other thing. And you can't come at it from, we're going to talk about the skyscraper on the building. You've got it. Well, like, how did the skyscraper even get there? What's the foundation, the stairs, all those things?
I know.
So,
I also just think for the same reasons that, like, let's just say, like, I always say, really put your face out there, but
mhm,
also keep your private life private. Like, these two things don't always have to coexist. Like, they do coexist. And I want things to be, that's why I really advocate for the private group because you can be yourself, but maintain a level of confidentiality from your clients and other things. If you don't
right.
want to be their friends on Facebook, stuff like that, that's why the Facebook group is awesome. Turning your profile public in any way, shape, or form opens up a whole can of worms most travel advisors don't know how to manage.
Yeah.
Trust me, from somebody that actually has trolls and mean people coming at me almost weekly. It's a lot to manage mentally and emotionally on top of trying to run your business.
Hmm.
So I really just advocate for continuing to live your life privately and not separating your business from personal life, because I actually intermingle mine all the time,
Hmm.
but making your profile public, like your actual personal Facebook profile public, makes zero sense to the everyday travel advisor because you don't know how to monetize your profile. Like you don't want to be producing content six, seven, 8 times a day. I talk to you guys. I know you don't have time for that. So, really, again, just make sure that what you're listening to makes sense for your business. Just because there's a lot of comments and cheer clapping and sharing doesn't actually indicate success. So, and
Fist
even,
pump.
yeah, I know. And sorry, I could like literally just go like
That's,
Instagram.
yes.
If you're struggling with Instagram, it's because it is a huge ocean of
Yeah.
people. And if you don't like it, create a community. Just create something for yourself. It doesn't, because numbers lie on
Hmm.
online. They really do. So
Yeah.
having thousands of followers or thousands of members doesn't actually equate real
Not at
conversion
all.
or success. So, no matter who you're following, again, make sure they align with what you want to do in your business. Don't buy something from me if you don't want to be talked to like I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
Don't, don't start a Facebook group if all you care about is having 10,000 followers because I'm never going to advocate for that.
Yeah.
You can't serve 10,000 effing people a year anyways. So,
Yeah.
like, and just because something's pretty doesn't make it successful.
Yeah.
Like,
I know successful travel advisors like multi-millions in sales that might have a thousand
yeah, I
followers. Like
mean,
that's not
yes,
everything.
yes, for sure. And some people aren't online, and there's all kinds of other ways you can build your business. But like, if you want to be on social media, I do think having a Facebook group makes the most sense because you
Mhm.
get to build it the way you want, and it's not
Yeah.
determined fully by the algorithm like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook page. It is really determined by the commitment you make to building a place where people want to show up.
Yeah. Speaking of Facebook groups, I know that yours is a very popular one in the industry.
It depends
So
on who you ask, Rita, but yes.
I know some people are
I
like,
get kicked
oh,
out of
she's
Facebook
spilling
groups on the regular, so
she's spilling a lot of
I am
like
I'm telling
don't
you all of my secrets. No, I think people know that I'm kind of, I'll tell you whatever you want to hear. So I'm
yeah.
just not the way you want to hear it.
I feel like for the most part, it's a really, at least like I would advocate for a lot of the things that you're, maybe not everything that you're saying, but a lot of the things that you're saying, I frequently find myself being like, yes. So I think it's a very helpful resource, especially for those people who are I signed up with this host agency and I think they're a wrong fit, or
Yes.
I'm seeing everybody talk about doing this. Is this the right thing for me? And I feel like that's one of the great things because it's not just you, it's a bunch of other travel advisors like chiming in their 2 cents, and then you can just take away from that conversation what you will.
Yeah, I mean, I started Maximize well before it actually had any people in it. So, I was afraid of the same things you guys are afraid of when it comes to starting something new. I really wanted to have an impact on the industry. So I did start Maximize, and it's called Maximize Your Travel Advisor Business, Building a Profitable TA Career. It's a mouthful because you're using all your characters.
Yeah, all those keywords.
Yes. And there are 14,000 advisors in there, and it's been really, really cool to watch it grow in these last 3 years. And we do talk business every day. That's the key piece of it. We're not your destination stop. If you
Yeah.
want to learn about Italy, there's plenty of opportunities so even though I'm good at Italy, I don't post about Italy in my own group, in this
Uh-huh.
particular group. I'm a part of the Italy groups. And so if we talk about TA perks and how to earn them. Today we talked about E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance. We talked about getting your own email account that is not tied to your host or your owner. So we talk about business every day. Every Tuesday, I have a Tuesday coaching post. You can ask me anything, business or personal, and I'll answer the question,
Hmm.
point you in the right direction. Um, but I do spend a lot of time in the DMs, Rita, with agents who are struggling with their host company.
Hmm.
So it has become the soft place to land to learn about hosts
Yeah.
and how to run a 1099 business. And there's nowhere else this is being talked about every day like that. So if you're interested, that's where you can come to
Yeah.
learn about it.
That's the best place. And I know you're always cheering people on from Instagram. So where's the next best place outside of like Maximize? Where should travel advisors go if they're like, this conversation is really timely for my business right now?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, no, and I don't mean that like, everybody has to find their own path
Hmm.
to the people that they want to learn from. Um, there are people outside of our industry. I feel like sometimes we get stuck in only wanting to listen to TAs, but there are so many amazing, inspiring women. Jen Hatmaker, Brene Brown, you could go on and on in terms of mindset, because I think that's probably the next place you have to get it right,
Yeah.
is believing in yourself. And that's when I burnt out. I actually spent a lot of time in therapy as well as getting my mind right. I
Hmm.
was so depressed and anxious. I really had to start from zero
Hmm.
and build myself up, and believe in myself and affirm myself, because I didn't believe. I was so disappointed in myself for leaving the industry and kind of like really destroying my reputation, and the way I served was at such a high level that to go from like 150% to nothing was really difficult. And lucky for me, again, I started to surround myself with people who cared about me and
Hmm.
wanted the best for me, and started to read books that aligned with, taking my care of my actual self and not just everyone around me. So I think mindset work next would be great. And you have to find the person that you relate to the most. I can't
Right.
really tell you who I relate. I mean, I love Mel Robbins and things like that, but they're not perfect either. They have
Right.
their own, things that you might not relate to. So I think it's just navigating the waters of mindset and believing in yourself is probably 85 to 95% of what we do every day as advisors.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's a constant work in progress. Like it's never finished.
sure.
And always like personal development, making sure that you're a better person, better business owner is something that we all have to consistently work at. So, but I'm going to make sure that I link up Maximize into the show
Yay!
description so
Thanks.
people can head over there. This was a really great conversation, so I'm glad that we were able to have it and let the rabbit take us down this rabbit hole we've been
Let's
on.
do it, Rita. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Marcie, and thanks, travel advisors. We'll see you back here next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.